We're starting. Hang on one second. I'll answer that question. But hey, peeps, this is Marci Locke, and I'm locking down the truth with Jody Jelas. She is like, and is it? Do you say it jealous, or I've heard it a couple different ways from people that talk about it.
Really?
Is
So
that how
it's
you say it?
actually, I say jealous, but yellish. It's actually Croatian.
I've had someone else say Jayless, and so I just was like, I probably could have confirmed that with Jody
Jealous.
before,
I pretty
but
much
that's how
say
it came across
jealous.
me. Awesome. Well, this chica is a badass, and so I'm stoked to do this. We had a few technical difficulties, so if you guys have been hanging out and waiting for us, it's worth the wait because this chick is awesomeness. So if you're new to Marci Locke TV, I'm the Body Mind Mentor, but it's all about epic living life creation, having it all, having total being a badass and living in your badassery, which not a lot of people tend to do. So this is about how do you become someone who is living in that experience, and hence I bring on the people that I think are absolutely phenomenal and influential on being epic examples of this, and Jody is one of them. So if you haven't been on the show before, you can download the Marci Locke app and get all the past TV shows and radio shows along with awesome kick-ass workouts, recipes, you name it, breakthrough tips on iTunes for free or at marcilockeapp.com. You can also get the free video series to get the rockin' body and life that you want on mindbody90.com. So that's how you can be able to play with us and stay connected to all the funness that we get to do and learn how to up-level your life to be influential and learn from these peeps that are influential. So Jody, since we're kind of jumping in, obviously, and we're on this huge time zone, Jody is so fucking awesome. The fact that she was up out late, she just said, doing a gallery event and buying a bunch of art, and then in her time, you're in New Zealand, it's 7 a.m., right?
It is 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
I've got my Barry White voice on.
I love it. I love it. I got to throw out some New Zealand phrases that I haven't gotten to use since I was in New Zealand. I was telling Jody that I spent a month and a half just traveling through New Zealand, filming, traveling workouts and nutrition. So it was really my, let's see how I put this. I wanted to go, backpack through New Zealand. So I was like, how do I create a business expense out of this? And that's what came up. I was like, fuck, I'll go film some workouts in New Zealand, and it worked. It was awesome. But one of my favorites, sweet as.
Sweet as, I know, right? It's like
Yeah, it's like works for
everything.
everything.
Sweet
And if I
as.
use it over here, people think I'm saying sweet ass. So, right? It's like sweet as. Cool. What are your favorite phrases over there?
I use like sweet every single day. I always joke because Victoria Gibson and I. So Victoria is in Australia, but we'll always joke. We bring each other up, and I'm always like, "Bro, what's up, bro?" She's there used to be an ad on TV, and it was a cartoon whale, and he was beached, and he'd say "bro" all the time. But he'd be beach test, bro. So every time
There you go. See, I'm getting back into it. It's that nice little relaxation of awesomeness that exists over there of how everybody hangs out. It's so cool. Awesome. Well, Jody, I am going to throw it at you real quick just to the whole point and purpose of this, I was telling Jody this when I first got on with her, is every single guest I have on, I say, this is my purpose. Be only authentic and real. Only everything allowed to come through you. There is no filter. I don't filter words. I don't filter thoughts or feelings or worried about judgment or rejection, because guess what? I'm not here to make you like me. I'm here for a passion and purpose of sharing my message and my truth. And it's like I'm always speaking to people authenticity and being real, and it's so cool that this is exactly what Jody is known for. She is a badass who is all about pure authenticity, totally real, and how that gets to come out in your business to thrive in your passion and purpose. So I was just like, I don't need to tell you this. I usually tell people to be like, just get in it with me and be super real and raw and authentic. And I'm like, Jody, this is how you live. It's so cool to see someone who exemplifies that the way that I believe and just living in that pure truth.
Yeah.
So tell us how you really got to this place and just who you really are.
It's funny because I help people with creating online TV shows or whatever it might be, right? Mm-hmm. So getting themselves out there and being authentic. So I teach people that stuff because people are always like, oh, how can I be so unique in my business? How can I be different from everybody else? And it's like, well, if you are yourself and you're 100% no filter yourself, there's going to be no one like you. People will love you or hate you, but the people who love you will follow you to the ends of the earth, right?
Yes.
But
Love
it
it.
wasn't always like that. It definitely wasn't. So what actually happened was, I can tell the story with the real words because there's no filter, right? So um, I was always like an entrepreneur. I was shit at anything at school except sports and business, right? And
Mhm.
computers. And then, so I had my first business when I was 21. I had a web design company for 40 years. Yeah, right.
I was like, wow,
40
damn girl, you look
years.
good.
So yeah, I started that when I was 21. But it's when in my web design company, I had my programmers, my designers. I started out doing everything myself, but I was always all about the strategy. And I loved that stuff, and I hated doing all the other fine detail.
Mm.
And I got to the point where I actually thought, you know what, all I want to do is the strategy stuff. I just want to go out there and do the bit that I love and get rid of the rest. So I gave my team the web design company. I just said, you've got 48 hours to decide if you want it or not. But what actually really changed my mind about how I worked is, we always spend so much time going through our lives trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, please everybody else, whether you're in a job or even in your own business, you're just trying to please everybody out there.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is just going against the grain of who you are to
But
try
you
and
nailed that when you said put a square peg through a round hole. It's like, it's
oh,
never going to fit. It's
no,
why do we
you
try to
can
live
have it
somebody
all
else's
you like.
life? Yeah.
Exactly. So what actually happened was I had a business coach. And when I was thinking of going out on my own, and like that's a tough thing to do. You're like, oh, I'm going to go put my name out there. I'm going to be under my name. So it's not like I can sell my company. It's Jody Jelas. I
Mhm.
can't pretend to be anyone else, completely putting yourself out there, right? And I said to my business coach at the time, I got some photos done and I gave him this photo and I went, oh, this is the professional photo that I want to use in my brand that I'm about to launch, the Jody Jelas brand.
Mhm.
He goes, okay, well, I'm going to ask some people what they think of it. And he came back and his feedback was, no one's ever going to take you seriously
Mm.
because they're going to see that photo, see your face, and they're going to only ever think of tits and heels. And I'm just like, can I fucking punch you through the phone? Because I thought, you and whoever you showed that photo to, because it's like, I had big boobs my whole life, right? I used to be like the skinny little sports girl, big boobs, first girl at school to wear a bra, got so much shit for it. And I just sat there and I thought, this is such a turning point for me because I like heels, I've got boobs, I'm not going to get rid of them. And so
Yeah,
if someone's going to be a dick and not take me seriously because of the way I look, then I don't want them as clients.
exactly.
So I went away and I went, all right, so I'm gonna write down everything I want my brand to be. And when I talk about brand, I don't mean your logo and that kind of shit. I'm like your overall, your whole purpose and everything you're doing, what it's all about. That's all part of your brand. And I just went, first thing on my list is I just want to be 100% no filter myself. And if someone's going to go and be like that, then they can just fuck off, move on. Then I don't even want them around. So I wanted to be 100% myself. I wanted to inspire other people and I wanted to take action. So, like, my tagline came out of that because of all these things I wrote down on the list. Those were the first three things. So, like, my tagline was jodyjelas.com, be yourself, get inspired, take action. And so out of that, it wasn't just my tagline that was formed, it was like the whole thing of my business because I thought, you know what, my whole life I've either been hiding my boobs or hunched over because other people were uncomfortable about the way I looked or whatever. And it was kind of like that moment I was, do you know what? Fuck all that. I'm just going to be who I am. I'm going to keep it real. And then I'm going to teach other people to do the same because it was so important to me. And it was like this freeing moment where it wasn't to please other people. It was just being 100% authentic, transparent yourself. And that's what I teach my clients because it's so important. And it just flows when you can be yourself. You don't have to try and force anything. It just flows and it's comfortable and it's just awesome. So yeah, so
What
that's how
gets
that
you
all
to that
came
place
about.
though of that enough pain where you were like, because for me, I kind of resonate that my whole life I was trying to show up as the perfectionist. That's why being free this way and authentic is so liberating. You will never want to go back. Like once you just drop the story that you don't give a fuck, like you said about pleasing everybody else, you're like, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm only going to choose to show up as me. It's like like the whole world is off your shoulders, and then you never want to go back. But I was that perfectionist identity. And when did it hit for you that you were like, okay, this isn't working? Because I see it that in business, when someone is not, and they're trying to show up fake, right? They're only attracting clients that they either hate, that really would hate them, that it doesn't mesh. And so it's like, it's just a battle instead of like, well, I'd rather people be like, I fucking hate her, so I don't want anything to do with her. So I only draw the people like, she's so cool.
Exactly. Exactly right.
You?
It's like I assume everyone's like this, but I feel all emotions through my body, right? And I'm an emotional person, but I'll feel emotions in my body. And if I'm doing a task that I hate or doing something that's just totally against the grain, I'll feel it in my body. Like my shoulders will be tense, I'll be hunched over, and I'll just physically feel horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of like I love doing my videos because my videos are so if people come up to me when they meet me and go, oh my God, you're exactly the same in real life as you are in your videos, I'm just like,
I love that. Yeah, you're like, well, yeah, of course.
It's the ultimate compliment, right?
Yeah.
But especially when you're younger, like when you go through your teenage years, there's a certain way you're supposed to be. There's a certain way your parents want you to be. There's a certain way teachers want you to be. So that whole process as a teenager, and you're trying to protect yourself, but at the same time, just the crap that gets put on you. And I was always a loud person, but it was usually trying to mask kind of who I really was. Whereas now I'm a loud person because I'm just myself. Whereas back then it was kind of, there was all these insecurities and all these walls just trying to hide who you are because everybody's judging you,
Mm-hmm.
The boys are, teenage boys, da 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 da. But yeah, and then you just get older and you just get to a point that's so exhausting. And I think back about it now and I can feel the tensing in my shoulders of just what it used to be like. And what the cool thing is, if we all just drop the walls and just drop the bullshit, it's not like we have to go and learn to be ourselves. We don't have to go and, you don't have to, I have to go do a course on how to be me. It's there. All we have to do is just drop all the bullshit around us and all the worrying and all the self-judgment and all the other people judging us. If you just drop that shit, then you're already it. You were born that way.
So let me ask you this, though, because what I've experienced with so many people that go through my Mind Body Breakthrough program, since most of us are raised the way that you're talking, where we have to show up for our teachers a certain way, we're worried about judgment from our church leaders to community to friends to whatever, right? We're always usually showing up in what we think we get to do to be validated and loved and accepted. Mm-hmm. So I find a lot of people are like, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am because they've done it for so long. They've never asked themselves the questions to go, well, who am I? What do I love to do? What do I thrive off of? Like you going, what do I want to do instead of all this other stuff that I've been doing because it has to look this way? That's kind of when it shifted for you to go, this is what I want to be. I want to be about, being real, taking action, being inspired, all these things, right? So how do you guide people into that, or how do you allow them to see, Jody, if this is the core thing about what you really do with people is get authentic and get real, how do you allow them to see the pain and the shit in being unreal and how to find that space where they just sink back into, oh, I can just be me? Maybe it's just still that block and barrier for people where they're like, I don't know who I am because they've never just sat in it, like you're saying, but I see a lot of people like, I don't even know who I am. And I'm like, that's okay. It's because your whole life you've been showing up as somebody else. Now it's time to find out.
Yeah, totally. It's funny because I've studied personal development my whole life, right? I did a John Keogh Mind Power course that my parents set me on when I was 14. And my dad's a concreter. Like he lays concrete. He's 62. He still lays concrete. But he started learning about personal development because he had injured his back. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't physically work, and for the Croatian work with your hands kind of people, he was just what the hell. So he started looking at personal development, which was cool because it was like a tough time in my life, teenage years, and so I started getting into personal development. But then it's kind of, it just comes back to that feeling thing. So he used to say to me, and it used to annoy the shit out of me, but it's so true. He'd ask you a question and you'd go, I don't know. And he'd go, but if you did know.
That's like
well, I don't know. Yeah, but if you did know.
Yeah. What would it look like?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God, it used to annoy me, but it did make you go, oh, okay, well. And then you dig for an answer. You dig yourself for an answer. But the kind of, like that exercise that I just mentioned that made me come up, it made me go, okay, well, these are the things that are important to me. It's like you take a pen and paper, go and sit somewhere in the grass at the beach, away from everybody, away from your phone, away from your laptop, away from all distractions, and just ask yourself the question, what makes me feel good? Like in your body, like what are your moments of absolute joy? I did a video off the cuff last week and I was talking about, I just did a John DeMartini program last week, and it was about, because on my list of values, business was actually higher than family. And I've always felt guilty that when I did that exercise that the kids weren't number one on my list. So then you have all this mummy guilt and all the other bullshit that comes along. You're like, oh my God, I must be a terrible mother. I must be a horrible person. That business is so important to me. But business, for me, business is my self-expression. It's like doing my videos, teaching people this stuff. That's how I express myself. And when I think about legacy, my business is my legacy. So what I teach is my legacy. So legacy and business like come hand in hand for me. So when he was going through this process of balancing it out so I didn't feel guilty, so I understood that my kids benefited from business being at the top of my list, but also my business benefited from the kids being in my lives, which I knew it, like you know that it does, but specifically how does that kind of affect you? And I thought, well, going back to those moments of joy, like the kids and I, we just dance around the house. We actually have a dance playlist, and the week that they're at their dad's, I'll hear a song and I'll go, oh, I've got to add that to the playlist. So I come home, and then last week there was 3 songs I'd added to the playlist, but I have to run them by the kids, right? It's like, got these new tracks this week, I've put it to the playlist, so when I go and pick them up, and I turn the tunes on really loud in the car, and I look in the mirror, and they're just there as if going, yeah, okay, I accept it. This can go on the list. But then we just dance off. We just dance off, go crazy, go loose. I put a video once up on.
I saw. I love that.
My son, at one point, he had crawled up on a chair onto the top of the kitchen bench. Like he's standing with his feet on the breakfast bar of the kitchen bench, when most people would go, oh my goodness, you don't stand on the kitchen bench, or you don't sit on the kitchen bench. My kid's there just rocking it out on the top of the table. Those moments when I'm doing that with the kids, pure, absolute joy. And you feel it in your body, you know? You're like, you don't think about anything else. The weight of the world is off your shoulder. It's just like, fuck it, this just feels good. Yeah. So if you go and sit somewhere away from everything, pen and paper, no computers, and just brain dump all of the words that come to your head when you think about what brings you joy, what makes you feel free, just what makes you feel physically good in your body. So what are those moments of joy? And when you start writing that down, don't overthink it. Just write down those words that come to you, and in that you start feeling free, and in that you're actually writing the overall feel and what your whole brand actually looks like. So that exercise is so powerful, and that's what made me have that breakthrough where it's like, I just want to be myself, I want to inspire others, and I just want to take action to make all that happen. And there was a bunch of stuff, but that was the ones that stood out.
And that's epic for me, because it's like you talk about, you just dropped the filter. You just said, just list what comes out. And this is such a powerful nugget that you actually tapped onto, is that in our mind, when we actually, our mind's job is to find whatever we're looking for. So when we're always just trying to show up as like, oh, how will people approve of me? How will they like me? Da, da, da. It's a mask. But as soon as you start asking yourself questions, your mind's going to find the solution. And so to even say, like, okay, so what do I love to do? And when you actually have a way of releasing it, like you said, write it out. It's so interesting what comes out of people that like, I had no idea that that was there because we've just been sheltering it for so long.
Yeah.
So that's a great, I love that. That's a perfect way to get that clarity. Something else you mentioned that I love is you said feeling good. So like, isn't our whole intention and purpose, I would love for you to rant off on this, Jody, and that isn't our whole intention and purpose as like to have an awesome, amazing life, right? To feel good. So why the hell is it always about the have-tos and the shoulds and everything else that we're so off alignment of even who we are and our purpose or anything that we don't even experience that? So you said like, what makes me feel good? And that's when you find that authentic truth, like playing with your kids to doing this. Like, isn't our life creation about designing it that's what we're doing? And that's really what you do. You do that with people so that they're loving their life because they're in their authentic self and they're freeing up their time to be and do what they actually love.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, like, we're all creative in one way or another. Like, some of us are more eccentric than others, some are introverts, some are extroverts, but we're all creative in one way or another. And if you're not being 100% authentically yourself, then you're just blocking all this creativity, right? Mm-hmm. So, and like, I find moments where I'll be slipping, you know, like some major thing might happen in your life and you find yourself, you slip back into square peg, round hole kind of situation. But you know, like, I can feel it in my body and I'm just like, I literally feel out of alignment, you know? Mm-hmm. Like something just doesn't feel right. Yeah. And they talk about follow your bliss, move towards joy, all of that. It's so true. And when you do that, you're in complete flow and you're thinking of creative things. So like even in my business, you know, if you're not doing the bits you love and being 100% authentic and listening to your body and listening to your head and you're letting all the clouded shit just block you, you don't come up with creative stuff. So like an example of that was it last week or the week before, there's like this new Pharrell video and it's all these women, they're all dancing and they're all different shapes and sizes and it looks like it was some sort of audition. So Pharrell's singing and watching and they're all dancing and they've all got their own style, right? And I was watching this video and I was trying to come up with like unique marketing ideas. Like, how can I get myself out there in a new way? Because I teach sales funnels and, you know, we do webinars and stuff. It's like everybody's fucking doing that. So how can I do this different? I saw this Pharrell video and I was like, well, I'm all about embrace who you are, be authentic. And I work with dudes and chicks. But in this video, I thought, man, how cool would it be to just do a music video, to write a track about being yourself and being authentic. Mm-hmm. And then I'll do one in like New Zealand, Australia, the States, and just go around, have, like I've got friends who can pull the music together and then just go around and getting people to dance like I do with the kids, just go nuts. And then the video can just be flicking to all these people. Wait, just saying this, I don't even have to travel to do this. I could get people to submit their videos and turn that into a music video. I don't even have to go anywhere.
Check you out, how that just came.
Totally, right? Yeah. And so I'm like watching the video
like going, in your thinking and it just comes. That's
and so when you're just being yourself and you're just going with it, all these creative ideas come that are just so outside the box and it just serves you in so many different ways in your whatever it is that you do, even if you're not in business, just keeps you creative. And we stunt our creativity by trying to fit into the box that everybody expects us to be in, you know.
So the benefit to being authentic and real and truly just finding what you love and who you want to be and sharing that passion is that literally business is crazy productive. You get the finances, you get the relationships, you get everything because you're actually really being you.
Yeah, and you go into like so I did hypnobirthing with the kids, which it's such a crazy name, they need to give it a better name. So with the kids, it was, I didn't want to go to the hospital, so I had one of them I had on the couch and one of them I had up in this kind of hippie retreat thing, right? But it was all about visualization, relaxation techniques and all this kind of stuff. And what I got out, I learned so much out of that I use in everyday life, just the different techniques. Yeah. And it's kind of like using those techniques to kind of get you into like mentally and physically, because the physical thing is always a reflection of the mental thing anyway, but just getting you into that state where you can free yourself up. So like you think of, and I go off track, because sometimes I don't do this, and then when I remember it, I'm like, damn, that's so easy. If you're like you might be sitting at your desk or you're doing something and you just feel out of whack. You know, you kind of listen to your body. It'll be like, oh, I'm hunched over, my shoulders are tense, I've got a headache or whatever. You know, something might be going on in your body. If you just walk away from everything, just go sit somewhere completely different. So you're changing your state by being in it physically in a different location, and just taking those big deep breaths, like through the nose, out the mouth kind of thing. So I'll do the big 3 hypno breaths, hypno breaths, and just completely just being in that exact moment. And then anything you were stressing about before, it just drops, and you just like, it's like a complete cleanse, change your state, you know. And then it just brings you back into, oh, now I've got a clean slate, so now I can move back into my creativity, go back to whatever it was you're doing, and you're just a completely different person.
Totally agree. So I believe like the only way you can create that internal clarity so that you can be a clear tool to create, right, is by knowing how to go internal. So you catch yourself in the office or whatever, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't think straight. I'm not in this project, or I'm not doing this or whatever. And so removing yourself, what I love is like you said you feel it, your body, every physical symptom that shows up is just a roadmap to what's going on inside. So even if it's like, I have a headache, why do I have a headache? Because I'm feeling stressed. Why am I feeling stressed? Because my past perfectionist identity says this has to look this way, and it's not going to be good enough, or it's not going to be done. You're like, whoa, is that really true? It's like, so most people will just go, oh, I'm feeling shitty, and I'm just unconsciously going to go to the pantry. I'm going to, and they distract themselves from the shit that's going on inside just to get clear with it, to create that clear tool and alignment and go, and so that's huge. The 5 steps to overcome sabotage is one of my greatest tools that I use. But going outside and just like taking a few minutes to meditate or whatnot, feeling good is like the main thing anybody can tell. And you said it's so easy. Why don't I do this sometimes? I love how everyone wants to make it so hard, when really it's just you choose your thoughts. Yeah. You choose your perceptions. You choose what you speak. You choose what you feel. You choose how you react. You choose your life. But we make it like, oh, man, to make $1 million or to have epic relationships or this, it's luck and it's hard and it's like that's bullshit. So tell me, with you really being keyed into this and this being the truth of what you do is like guiding people to this state of just being to that reality, which is so needed. I love that you do this because so many people just operate out of a mask. What was your journey? Drop me back into your story, because I think people looking at you, Jody, they hear you're a badass. You totally speak your truth. You're confident. You're in alignment with like, and it just comes across. You don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about you. You're here to do what you do, right? And you and I were messaging, or I messaged you that Facebook post you did where you're like, love this. Somebody sends you a message and says, you turn me off because you swear, and I was like, awesome, I get those too. And it's like, lions don't swat flies. I could think about telling this person, well, there's a reason why I chose to not be a filter anymore, because I feel like God uses these when I feel inspired to say, any word, that if I filter it, I'm not being a tool in God's hand. So I was filtering out of judgment. Now I let go of that. So, of course, everything that comes through me is just coming through me. But is it worth me taking the time to explain this to this person, that this is my passion, my purpose? Then I'm like trying to validate myself to get approval from them again. I'm like,
exactly.
I'll fucking move on. Don't watch my Facebook. Don't watch me, and move on. Like you said, but it's interesting. People go put all their attention effort towards somebody else instead of how do I create for me? And it's okay for someone else to experience whatever they want to experience. So where was your path? Drop us back in your story. I know you said you really started things at 14, but someone watching you just is like, you're awesome, so of course you can do it. Give us back.
I was a fuck up. I was such an insecure.
That's what I want to hear, Jody. I want to hear the fuck.
Honestly, I was the this is gonna be so
awesome.
God. I've never said this before to anyone.
I'm excited now.
Okay, I was the teenage kid who on the outside seemed really cool, but I was seemed to be cool with myself, but I wasn't. I was the one who I remember I got the worst suicide attempt story ever, right? We were living at my nana's house because we had this fantastic lifestyle, and then my dad put all his money into a business, so he lost it. We had to go and live at my nana's house, right? So we're living it was a really bad time in my life anyway, but we were all living at Nana's, and I was living in off the garage of the pump house because there wasn't enough. It's like this big dramatic sob story, right? But I remember just lots of bad things were happening in my life, and I was in that. Um, I remember going into Nana's cupboard, and I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to end this. And so I went up to Nana's cupboard, and I thought, she's old. She's going to have some really good drugs. So I went and got all the drugs in her cupboard, and I went and sat down at the beach, got all the booze, the rocket fuel, had all these pills, took all these pills, went and hid behind a rock at the beach, thinking that's it, it's all over. Apparently my Nana must have suffered from constipation because all the pills were laxatives. So I'm like sitting at the beach, stomach gurgling, going, I'm going to shit myself to death. I had to sprint up the beach, run back to my Nana's house because I thought, I don't want to be found on the beach just
covered in shit.
It was like,
oh, Jody, you just made the day. That's awesome.
It was like I've done a lot of youth work because as I was a teenager and the stuff that I went through as a teenager, God, we could be here all day talking about the stuff, but just totally insecure, such a fuck up. I did so many stupid, crazy things, totally promiscuous, and it all came down to, as I got older and I learned about myself, it just all came down to these insecurities and not being cool with who I was, right? Mm-hmm. Like as I got older and I started learning more about myself and becoming okay with myself, I'm like, it's so common. Like you look at the teenage girls and teenage boys and they're all just so insecure, and that's all it comes down to, and they just want to feel loved and they want to feel good about themselves. But then we can go, like some people can go through their entire adult life and not have access to the tools that we have access to and not know how to come out of that, and they take that to their grave. They're like that their whole lives. They don't even learn that stuff. So in doing all the personal development, I was like, well, what can I do to give back? Because all I really needed was to just feel better about who I was. And of course I was doing this personal development stuff, but we're all, when you're younger, you're all trying to hide your emotions, hide your feelings, just pretending that you're all cool, even if you're not. So going through all of those years of my laxative suicide attempt, but just so as I got older, it was like I wanted to work with youth to make them help. If I could, like, you used to be like, if I could help one teenage person just feel good about themselves so they don't have to go through the experiences that I went through, then I can make a difference. Mm-hmm. But then when I had kids of my own, it was I couldn't do my charity work anymore and the youth work because it was all about the kids in my business. But then it's kind of like, well, in my business, the stuff that I do now, it's like the adult equivalent. It's like you're helping adults drop all that bullshit. You're helping adults go, well, that fucked up little teenager that we all are at some point or another, whether you're acting out and being crazy or drugs or alcohol, whatever your thing is. It's like, it's the equivalent of that. So in what we do, and like what you do, what I do, what Garrett does, what all of us do, is the adult equivalent of helping people be cool with themselves and take away all the judgment and take away all the bullshit and all of that crap that you went through. I was nearly bankrupt twice in my 20s in my web design company, and I tell that story all the time because you just sit there going, oh, I'm such a loser, and you put so much meaning to it. And the best exercise that I ever did was I actually did a video blog post about this recently, was when it came to losing all the money in the 20s, right? I didn't have real joy. I had my business, I was good at it, I had a whole lot of happy clients, but I wasn't good with my money, and my driving force was, how much money can I make this weekend so I can go and do some epic trip and go and get shit-faced and party my ass off? And then Monday's like, okay, well now how can I do that again to make enough money for this weekend? There was no big picture plan. There was no drive behind it. It was just, wow, I know I can go and do this and make money. So I nearly went broke twice in my 20s, and the best exercise I ever did was taking whatever it is that is messing with your head. So whether it's not having enough money, or maybe it's something you've done that you're judging yourself for, write down just hardcore, just go half an hour, just write every single thought that you have about that thing. And so for me, it was having all this debt and nearly being bankrupt. So I'm like writing, I'm a loser every time I don't check the mail, because every time I see an envelope, I think it's somebody wanting money, and going through all of this stress.
Mm-hmm.
Then what you do is you go back over everything you've written with a highlighter, and you highlight what's fact, and then you leave the rest, because the rest is just your bullshit story, right?
Wow, that's awesome.
I'd written like 4 pages about being such a loser. How did I get myself into this mess? I'm such a loser if I got here in the first place. And then when I highlighted the fact was, when I was 21, I wanted to go and travel the world, and I was earning good money in my day job. So I got a bunch of credit cards, and I traveled the world on those credit cards. And then I didn't pay them back. I just ignored them. That was it. That was fact. Everything else I had built up over that decade was just bullshit.
Wow.
And once you take away that bullshit, because you're so thick in whatever your crap is, when you get rid of the bullshit, you can't see solutions when you're in that. You're just so clouded, you can't see solutions. So by doing that, seeing that most of it's bullshit, look at the fact. And when you've only got the fact, which is usually one simple little sentence, it's like, oh, so the solution to that is, and all the solutions start coming to you. Yeah. So then it was like, okay, well, I start paying off this, and I do this, and all these payment plans, and before I knew it, I was out of debt, and I was, debt-free for the first time in my entire life.
Yeah.
All I had to do was just write it all down, and because writing it down helps so much, because you can sit there and go, yes, I've got all this bullshit in my head, but until you actually write it all down.
Yep. Then it comes through you. It's like your mind sees it for what it is.
Yeah, and it's on paper. And then you can rip that shit up, set it on fire, screw it up in a bowl, physically ditch it, and just stick with the fact.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this reminds me of just you're talking about the tools. Like, you went through a process. You started personal development at 14. I started at a very young age too, trying to understand the mind for us to have a different experience. Because the truth is, like, 1% of the population is creators. And there's only 3 types of people. There's spectators, participants, and creators. And 1% create. 99% go through the motions of life, believing these bullshit stories of how life's supposed to look and the conditioning of what they deserve or believe, or, only one area of life can be good, and, go through the motions, and this is life, right? And so when you're talking about the tools, it's like these tools that gave you that process of going, whoa, this is all bullshit. And if you would have lived in that bullshit, what would you be focused on? More debt, more shit, and you would have created more shit. And you'd be sitting here right now being someone who's still in shit, right? And so, like, yesterday, I had a really, I shared a video where the resistance that I'm experiencing with moving to California, and having my 2 little boys were super stoked and excited as we talked about it and what we wanted to create. And then when they told their dad, he lives in a different mindset, and so he portrayed some perceptions to them that really messed with their heads, and created a ton of fear for them. And then I allowed them to go stay with him for the summer because we were going to move to California. So I just traveled and did a ton of my business stuff, rocked it out while they were there. And to just get my boys back and head out, my oldest is really struggling because he's got all these thoughts about fear that he's losing everyone in his life, because that's what he was told. You're going to lose everything. And it just guts me that literally we don't sometimes know where our perceptions, how they create beliefs for kids and other things. But in doing that yesterday was my first day moved officially to California. And I went for a run on the beach, and I was thinking about all these analogies of like the resistance in life and journeying over it. And I was able to shift my perception, being like, I am so grateful. First off, it's kind of like you take a plant, and if you have a plant and it's like in this great fertile soil, and you're watering it and you're giving it sunlight and all these things, and this plant's growing. It's like I've been empowering my boys with their the ability to think and use their own mindset for a long time. And so then all of a sudden you take the plant and you transplant it to a different soil, and the soil is like not as good, or it doesn't have the same nutrition or elements or whatever, and so it starts to die and deplete. And then you might take that plant again and transplant it to fertile soil that's miracle grow. So I'm like all of a sudden I have this analogy in my head where it's like, okay, and then what's important is I have the plant back in front of me, and I am so grateful and blessed for that experience, that they experienced such a level of victimhood and such a level of negative perceptions, that now under the care of allowing themselves to reshift their own mindset and be in this fertile soil. As they grow up, I realized yesterday, I was like, they will be able to see directly in front of them every single sign of the most victimhood story that they'll want no part of it, because they experienced that. And so everything is such a gift and a blessing, but most of the time people don't have these tools, you know, to go, how do I, because you just shifting that perception. That was huge for me yesterday. I had to take myself through a process to go, what am I seeing and feeling? I was like, I'm feeling like a horrible mother that made a bad decision. I just went from my oldest is like adventurous and loves adventure and exciting, and he's always talking about creating, and he does videos where he pops up and he tells kids that they should love themselves for who they are, and it doesn't matter what other people think. And he went from that kid over the summer to walking around like a negative dead zombie. And I was just gutted that I just felt like I did that to my child. He just had, you know, the whole summer ingrained with these limiting negative beliefs. He went from faith, exciting love to operating out of fear and just not wanting to do anything because he was told all these things. I was just like, what did I do to my child? And all those stories of like, you know, the bullshit. And where I got down to the fact, it was like, it wasn't a wrong decision, because you never make a wrong decision. It's always a perfect decision for your process. What is true is that they got the perfect experience for them of experiencing victimhood.
Yeah.
And what's true now, they're back in my space. And I can just share with them and teach and learn and grow and be a growth partner with them and allow them to see the difference. So, but the perception shift was everything.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what shit you go through. It's like, usually when something good happens in my life, I think, oh, that wouldn't happen if I didn't have that shit thing happen. Like, I wouldn't do what I do if I hadn't been through all this shit that I'd been through, you know, as a kid, as a teenager. Even now, like any shit we're going through now, it's kind of like, back in like my darkest days, I used to have this recurring dream that I was being sucked into a hole. But as I was being sucked into this black hole, there was lines of people, and they kind of stood far apart, and I didn't know them very well, but the closer I got to the hole was people that I knew, and they were all telling me not to go to the hole, but I was like being drawn to this hole. But like that hole was kind of like every time something bad happened in my life, and you're in that hole and you're like, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like somehow eventually I'd get out of it. And then every time I went back into that hole, it was like I'd filled it with dirt or something, and I would never go as deep as I did the previous time. To the point where so much bad shit happened that I would think, well, I know that I'm never going to go back down there again. So the more the bad shit happened, the easier it was to get out of it. Yeah. So imagine if you had a whole life where only good shit happened. You're never going to grow from that. You're never going to learn. You're never going to have awareness. And with the kids, like the kids, man, they're such good teachers. I remember opening a fortune cookie when I was pregnant with my daughter, and that was a surprise. When I was pregnant with her, it was like, oh, whoops, this wasn't planned, but it's the best thing that can happen. And I opened this fortune cookie, and it said, your best teachers will come in the smallest packages. And I thought, well, being pregnant, that's appropriate. And just watching them and knowing what you can teach them. But I don't want them to go through their life and have only good experiences, because they're not going to learn jack shit that way, are they?
Yeah, so they're your perfect growth partners. That's what I realized too, is my kids are my perfect growth partners. But this is the filter where the message I believe you're about, and that's what I'm trying to speak as well, is that, so I have people when they first go into my program and we talk about using the journal, like you said, what comes out of you and releasing that. And they're like, well, I don't want anyone to read this. I don't want my kids to read this someday. And I'm like, why? Like, why would you want to only share with your kids a perception of perfectionism? That's what you had, and that's why you're fucked up. It's because we're all trying to run around and be everybody else is perfect. So by being like, oh, I never did anything wrong, and I never had any struggles, and I wouldn't ever want you to know about all the things that I went through, you're just telling them that you expect them to show up a certain way to be loved, and it's not okay for them to have anything other than that path. Instead of like, how much more powerful is it to say, yeah, these were the things that I did in my life, and these were the things I learned from it, and this is it, and you see that it allowed you to be who you are now. Like, I would never want to be anything but me. And all of those, and that's why you see you're in the conscious state now, Jody, where you know when shit shows up, it's just clarity. It's just back. It's just like, oh, I'm back in this hole. What don't I like about this? And that it's a gift, because pain is the only way we go, whoa, awareness, what's going on? Don't
Mhm.
love this feeling. What do I get to do to shift what I am doing so I get even better? Most people just go, oh, pain, shit, run, and hide even to a deeper hole and
Yeah.
continue to do the same shit over and over again. But getting back to that space of releasing that it's okay for it to be. I think this is why I always say, there's this phrase I used to start to tell myself when I was learning and understanding, accepting and owning my own truth and just being who I am. It was like, it's perfect. I'd say it's perfect, like when shit would show up. So it wasn't like I was focused on the shit, or I'd say interesting. So it was like an energy that wasn't attached to negative or it was just like interesting. Like
Yeah.
take it in and let's look at it, not be like, oh, this is bad, wrong. It has to, good, bad, wrong, right. This is how we've been taught to label things.
Mhm.
And I'd say it's perfect, and I could perceive how people would be like, or I'd say it's perfect, I'm perfect, and how there's that perception of like, oh, so you think you're perfect, and the ego thing would come up, and I'd be like, I'd have to allow myself to go, I realize no matter what I'm in, it's perfect and I'm perfect.
Totally.
Whatever I'm experiencing, if I'm having a bitch mom moment and I'm
Mhm.
like, find myself on edge with my kids and I'm about to explode, then I'm like, whoa. It's just now it's like I'm perfectly being a bitch mom right now.
Yeah.
Do I want more of this, or do I get to change it to be something different? If I want something different with my kids, if I want to actually have an epic relationship, it's awareness for me to go, whoa, what's going on, so I can change this. But I'm still perfectly in my shit. I'm
Yeah.
perfectly being me. And so I believe perfection is just, it's like we hear the phrase, it's about progression, not perfection. But
Uh-huh.
I think we're always perfect. There is no
Exactly.
way we're perfect.
It's just reframing what that word actually means. Because,
Hmm.
funnily, my daughter was 1 day old, and I was lying in the bed with her. She was asleep. It was just her and I. And everyone's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. And I remember I just had this brain dump coming out of my head, and I had no paper. I only had like the book that the nurses were writing with the midwives, whatever it was, were just writing
Hmm.
in the book about the progress of her feeding and stuff. So
Hmm.
I got a pen and I wrote it in all the gaps in the book, what was coming out of my brain at the time. And it was that people say there's no such thing as perfect. It's almost like they put a fear around the word perfect, but
Yeah.
is the word itself perfect, and what I interpret it to be, and obviously what you interpret it to be, is whatever it is in that moment, whatever it is you're learning, be it good, be it bad, it is perfect exactly the way that it is. Perfect doesn't mean that it needs to be right, or it needs to be an exact kind of way to suit a person, or because what can suit one person doesn't suit another anyway. But
Hmm.
yeah, so I just wrote down what my definition of perfect was, because I had the birth plan of how it was going to go, and it did go exactly how I had visualized for 6 months. People go, oh, you're so lucky. I'm like, really? I lay in bed every single night listening to an audio, um, and manifesting and visualizing every single night for 6 months before I went to sleep on exactly how my birth was going to go, and it went exactly how I had visualized. Oh,
You
you're so
designed
lucky.
it.
It was
The
like, it wasn't luck. I
Yeah.
made that happen, you know?
I was just
There's
gonna say,
so
the
many people that,
bullshit story is luck. There is no such thing as luck. Luck is a victim of circumstance word, because
yeah,
that's like, oh, it's by chance that you can have money. It's by chance that you can have everything. It's by chance that, oh, you're so lucky your pregnancy went well. And it's like, you're like, bullshit. I designed it in my head and I
exactly.
created that experience for my life. So
Exactly. So I'd written this whole thing about what the word perfect meant. And so, yeah, when you hear people talk about nothing's ever perfect, you'll never find the perfect man, you'll never blah, 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 perfect this, perfect that. It's like, well, every man that comes into my life is perfect because you're always learning a lesson. It
yep.
might be, well, how the hell did I get myself here? How did I end up with that person? What's the lesson I've got in this? It's all just perfect, right?
Yes, I love it, Jody. You totally see life through the same eyes as I do. So that's awesomeness. Tell me, and first off, I'm gonna let everybody know that if you guys, obviously, Jody's amazing, and I kind of want to remind me, Jody, because I want to go into this talking about perfect and what's right for each person, and just even like some of the stories that get to be dropped to allow you to be living in your perfect. But I do want everyone to know where they can follow Jody or get in touch with Jody, because she's awesome and amazing at what she does. Obviously, in business creation, so many people out there wanting to find your passion and purpose. Don't do it the way where you're like showing up in a mask and doing what everyone else is doing, because it's just going to fall apart eventually and you're going to be back to the same place. Start from the get-go of loving the way that you do it and being real and being you, because there is only you. So find Jody for that. She's epic at that. She's awesome and amazing. And so it's jodyjelas.com, which is JODYJELAS.com, is how you can get in touch with Jody. You can follow her on Facebook. That's how I learned about her badassery, and I was drawn to her because she obviously lives in truth, which is, I only attract the very best, Jody, by the way. So that's how I roll. Like, they just, like, yep, she's badass. That's right. That's how it works. So you being a female and being a single mom, as I am, I would love you to share, because I know so many of the people that follow the show even are women, and who are like getting the idea of how do I actually stand in my truth and show up for me and whatnot. And you're talking about being your own perfect. So this is where, like you and I mentioned before, swearing, or how you show up where it just comes through you. And recently I had someone tell me that they had an intention for this event that I was going to speak at, that there'd be no swearing. And I said, awesome, I won't be there. and it's not that I have an intention to swear, but I have an intention to fully show up as me. And for me, my experience was coming from Utah and being in Utah, there's a lot of judgment around that. And I realized that I would hear, like, it's like God working through me to say the F word or say shit or say something that felt like it needed to be that fire and that trigger for people, because a word is just a word, right? But yet in our society we've attached thoughts around words. So people choose to be offended if you use this word. And so you kind of experienced this too, where you're like, so instead of being like, well, that person should show up this way for me to accept them, instead, how do we get to the space, or what would be your suggestion for people to, or even for women listening to this or anyone listening, to go, how do I drop judgment and attachment and go, it's okay for me to show up as me, and know that it's okay for that person to show up as them? So what would you say, like you being a single mom, being, rocking out your business as a female, any of the stories or things what were the things that you really got to let go of to design your perfect? So it was.
God, that's so funny. I did this rant on Facebook recently about letting go. So it's funny that you actually use those words. Because for me, sometimes I'll get stuck in some shit, and I'm talking, this happens all the time. This was a couple of weeks ago. I was stuck in some shit, and I was like, oh my God, I'm stuck in this shit. How do I get out of it? And it's beautiful, that Let It Go song out of the Kids. What is it?
It's Let It Grow. Is that one?
Just everyone's going around singing that song, and it's like so perfect right now, because there's things in my life where I'm just like, you just gotta let go of it. So to answer your question, what we tend to do, like my favorite book ever is Stephen Pressfield, Do the Work, right? It's like a 2-hour read, super easy book to read, but it's about resistance. And like, I kind of knew what resistance was, but this whole book is about taking resistance and making you realize that you aren't resistance. Resistance is the thing outside of you. That we've all got where we are now and where we want to be, whether that's a goal, or who we want to be, something we want to achieve. But then we tend to put up all of these walls and blocks and filters that we put there that stop us getting from where we are now to where we want to be. Now, the thing with resistance is I've got a program, and in the first video, the welcome video of my program, it says, I 100% guarantee that through this process you are going to hit resistance. We all do. But the thing in this book was explaining about how resistance comes in so many forms. And it's almost like human nature to self-sabotage anything we want to do. But when you become aware that resistance exists, deal with it, don't worry about it, don't judge yourself. When anything comes up that blocks you from getting from where you are now to where you want to be, it's some form of resistance. It may be that maybe you want to go do a speaking gig and someone in your family dies. That's still a form of resistance. You may not have, you may think, well, I didn't cause this death. This is just something that happened. It's still a form of resistance. We still attract resistance into our lives. So when I hear people complain about my swearing, I think, oh my God, that poor person is here and they want to get here, and they're using something as fucked up and trivial as swearing to not know the message. Because that woman the other day, I never replied to her. I just put what she said on because she took the time to email me to say, I've watched some of your videos and I really like what you do and I was ready to learn from you, but and the word wasn't even a swear word, it was mofo. I didn't even say the actual words. It was just mofo. And you know what was funny? The word mofo was in the subject line of the email. It's in my autoresponder sequence, and it's my testimonial from Garrett J. White, and it says, this guy is one crazy mofo, and it's in the subject line. So that's what she was responding me to, going, I have enough negativity in my life to, I was looking forward to learning from you, but because you used the word mofo, I have unsubscribed from your list. It was like, oh my God.
It just shows their conscious level, because I had the same experience where when I swore, where someone was like, I have followed you for a long time. I watch your videos every day. They inspire me every day. And then as soon as you started using these words, you're unprofessional, unethical, and I have to block you. It's like, who, and
block, keyword block.
Yeah, because you're being inspired by me every day with the message and you're changing your life. But as soon as you attach to a word, you don't hear the message. It's like, who's really winning in that story?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So like with that example of yours, they're like, oh, I'm really inspired and I'm moving towards, and this is what it covers in the book, because it takes you through the process of resistance. Like you can get to a point where you're really in flow, and then you might get really close to achieving that thing, and you'll do something to sabotage it, and that resistance will hit. So for that person, they probably, here they are now, here was their goal. They may have got kind of 90% of the way through their goal, and they're like, yeah, I'm getting there. This is so fabulous. I'm so inspired. I'm doing this. Oh, shit. I'm hitting the terror barrier. How can I get back to my comfort zone and stop myself achieving that thing that I want to achieve? I know. I'm going to use her swearing as my excuse.
Yep. I'll validate it. I have no part of that. Yeah.
And then they'll go back to their comfort zone, and it will all be your fault because you swore that they didn't get to where they want to be.
Yep. It's so fascinating, isn't it? But as that person like you, that when you're in that state of consciousness where you don't attach, this is what I ultimately want people to hear from you, is that there is no attachment or judgment. You just looked at it and you're like, well, okay, awesome. That's great for you. Like, it's, you know, if anything, I'm like, well, that I see it the same way you do. That poor person.
Yeah.
I feel more so blessed and grateful every time I look around and I realize I'm so blessed and grateful. I know how to continue to move forward and create the life that I want, and not be stuck by these stories or these blocks or living in shit because they can't see outside their little block, you know, like right here. It's like they got blinders on. It's like,
and the reason I put that on Facebook was not to go, haha, look, I swear it's so funny, but because it all comes down to the awareness, and people are not aware of the fact that they use excuses as small as that to block themselves from where they want to go. So it's kind of like my message to her was, if you wanted to learn, if you really wanted to learn, then it wouldn't matter about the swearing. You'd be listening to the message. Like, you know how I set up to study personal development forever? Every bit of personal development, every course I do, every book I read, every bit of learning, you know, I've never read a fictional book in my entire life. I've only ever read business books and self-help books. But every single one, without a doubt, will have something in it that I'll go, well, that doesn't resonate with me. I'll just ignore that bit. So you may have like a 10-chapter book, and there's a 1-page in the 5th chapter that I think, no, that doesn't work for me. I don't throw the book away and go, no, that's bullshit.
Nothing in that must be true because this one thing doesn't resonate for me. Yeah.
Every course, there's always something where I go, okay, well, that doesn't rub me the right way, but the other 90% or 60% of what I've learned is valuable, so I'm going to take that. You know? It's always, there's always going to be bits you like and bits you don't. You take the bits that serve you, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just go, okay, that bit helps, that bit doesn't. Sweet. So
don't you think that all just comes back to the point of being that, like, we're all just here in our perfect growth process and expansion, and we're all just here to learn, and like learn from each other is how we grow greater. So I take what I can learn here and what's good for me, and I'm in my perfect place. And if I have something doesn't resonate for me, like if someone doesn't swear and it doesn't resonate for them to swear, it's like, okay, awesome, well then don't swear for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
that's the other thing. So like another thing that people do to is they might see you or me or whatever and go, oh, I really like them, I want to be like them. And then they'll try and market themselves, and they don't intentionally copy you, but then you can tell that they're trying to be you. And you think, there is nothing that screams a lack of confidence. And funny, my blog post that comes out this Friday is about people copying your shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, people get so worked out. Oh, someone's copied my stuff. They did it word for word. Or someone's doing a video that they're trying to be like me. Or sometimes I'll get people message and go, have you seen this video? They're pretty much saying word. I've seen someone do a video that is word for word the script of one of my videos.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've gone, you know, again, I've gone, oh, that poor person. I don't look at it and go, you bastard, you've ripped off my shit. I go, oh my God, that poor person is so lacking in confidence that they can't find their own message. So they think they just have to go and use someone else's or be like someone else. So some people will go to me, oh, I really want to do video blogging, but you're really funny in your videos and I'm not really a funny person. So don't try and be funny. You know, maybe you're a spiritual person and, you know, maybe just find out what that strength is for you, what works for you, and do that. Don't, because it's really, like, sometimes people will go, oh, I want to write a bit of copy for this, or I need to do a sales funnel for this, and I went and analyzed such and such's funnel because I love their work, and then they'll find themselves subconsciously going and recreating exactly what that person's created instead of just speaking their truth and doing, you know, what works for them.
Yeah, I see that a ton. People that go through my programs tend to use my verbiage or you know, be in that mesh place. But it's like, I believe every single one of us has our own genius, has our own gifts, has our own greatness. And it's like what they learn or what, you know, does resonate for them in their journey, then they want to share in their own way. And it's like there's no thought for me of like, oh, they're doing my stuff. They're competing with me. Because I'm so like, yeah, nobody's going to be me. Like, doesn't matter if you say everything that I say. Yeah, exactly. Nobody gets the experience of me without me. Like, what I do is extremely unique, and everything that I offer is always me. What if they're trying to even take some things they've learned from me or do this and then add it to that? It's still it's still uniquely them. Like, there is no fear of that. But that's a different consciousness level where you were like in peace and flow of like, hey, there's plenty. You didn't go into lack and scarcity of like, oh my gosh, shut down. How do I protect myself? How do I guard everything because somebody might take something? When it's like it all just comes from God anyways.
It's like that, the only like traditional business, you know how you do like the SWOT analysis? What is it? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat. Is that right? God, I haven't done that in a long time. But there's always that one where you have to assess your competition. I don't give a shit about my competition. It doesn't. I don't even care if there's someone, no one, like, man, I'm in internet marketing. There's so many people teaching the same shit that I teach, but we all have a strength. I don't see a single internet marketer that is exactly like the next person. So for me, sure, I may teach funnels and rah, but then my strength is in authentic video blogging, that kind of thing. You know, and then the next person, even like Victoria, so Victoria Gibson, her and I actually, she's one of my best friends, we actually teach the same shit, but we'll join forces sometimes because I'll be on the video blogging and she's brilliant and being yourself, and she's brilliant at Facebook ads and sales copy, which is not my strength, which I'll straight up tell people. So, you know, we teach the same shit. If someone was to go and do her mastermind course and my mastermind course, it actually has similar content. It's funny, I went to one of her events recently and I was flicking through her book, her workbook, and she's like, I know, it's your shit. And I'm like, well, half your shit's in mine as well, because she's so good at that and I'm good at my bit. We actually just swap our stuff. So a lot of some of her content and my content is actually a crossover, because it's like, well, I'm not going to pretend that I'm really good at the stuff that you're good at. I'm going to get you to teach my people your stuff. So, we literally teach the same stuff, but we've got different flavors and different strengths. We'll never be exactly.
And the point is, you're not trying to hide anything. You're not trying to be something you're not. You're just saying, this is what I love, this is what I'm good at. And you said it, there's a million internet marketers. I mean, there's, with the internet and technology now, everyone, I mean, there's so much opportunity, right? And so many people doing the same thing. You'd spend forever looking at competitors instead of just going, well, who am I and what do I offer? And drawing those people to you that want you because they're because you're being your authentic self, and they're drawn to you, the authentic self that is you. So that reminds me of, like, there's been so many experiences for me where I do the crazy shit that I do. Like sometimes I find myself on TV doing stuff and I'm like, holy shit, did that just come out of me on live TV? I'm like, yes, it did. Well, apparently it's perfect. It's perfectly me, right? And I'll be in events or stuff where that happens, and then even if I go and I'm in the airport and I go in this little corner to get in a workout and like doing my bands, and next thing I know, there's like 20 people around me that are like looking at me and watching me and asking me questions, or and it always, and I can look outside, which I don't even ever notice. My nanny the other day said, I love how wherever we go and the stuff that you end up being this show for people. Like everyone is watching you and be like, what the hell? Is she really doing that in public? Like, just because I'm so not attached, I'm like, oh, that's funny. I don't even see them. She sees them. I don't see them. And I only see, but what's interesting is I'm sure in all these situations there's people that are like, what in the hell? She's working out in the airport or whatever I'm doing. But then the only people I see is the ones that are drawn to me, that are like, that's so cool. That makes sense. You're maximizing your time. You're getting your workout in the airport, right? And they're drawn to me, and they want to learn what I know. And that's the greatness about being authentic. About being your true self.
You know what's funny is like those people who are standing back and being all judgington, the thing is behind their judginess, they're actually sitting there going, fuck, I wish I had the guts to do that.
Yep.
And it's actually just their insecurities and bullshit. It's not that they really think that you're a freak. They're sitting there just going, I wish I had the balls to do that.
Yeah.
I wish I could be like that.
Yep. Always a mirror. And I've had so many experiences with people where we got to look at why they were triggered by me, why they were judging me, and then where they recognized, oh, I was a mirror in front of them, that they wanted to be open and free and happy and energized, and yet that was scary to them because then they'd be judged. So it's like easier to step back and go, that lady's crazy. She's crazy. She's crazy mofo. Had to throw that in there now. Awesome. So Jody, tell me this though, because I know like you and I could go off forever, and I know I think we're already over on time. But tell me what are, if you're talking to those people that are in the hole and in their shit, like what would be the key suggestions you would tell them now to allow them to climb out and experience the authentic life that you're living now and that freedom?
To trust the process, even if you don't know what that is, even if you can't see how it could possibly unfold, if you can't possibly see the solutions, just trust the process, because it's all just perfect. It's all for a reason. And the thing is, when you're in that hole and you need to trust the process, it's just being stuck in that shit. You literally, there's that phrase about the donkey, and the guy was trying to kill the donkey, so he dug a massive hole and put the donkey in it live, and he was going to bury this donkey alive, and then every time he chucked dirt in the hole to bury the donkey alive, the donkey just took a step up. And that's how I see that hole. So every time you get dirt chucked on your face, you're like, just step up, because that bit of dirt is the thing that's going to get you to the top of the hole, And you got to have all that. You got to have the bad stuff with the good. And if you just trust the process and know in your heart of hearts, even if you can't see it, that you will get out of it and you will learn from this, even if you don't know what the learning is right now. Sometimes the worst shit can happen and you're sitting there going, can't wait to see what the lesson is in this, because I can't see it right now. Just know that there will be a lesson. You will get out of it, and you just got to completely trust the process.
Wow, that is an epic analogy. I love that, and it's true. Every single piece of shit is a gift. Gives you feedback to just get higher and get clearer and live more of an awesome life. So anything else that you want to end off today with your fabulous nuggets and you living in your truth that you want to share?
Just that no matter what you do, no matter what you teach, no matter what your message that you need to get across, just go away, be peaceful and quiet with yourself, and just work out who you are, who you want to be. And sometimes that can take practice. You might be like, oh, this is the kind of, I want to be like this. This feels good to me. This is the kind of person I am. This is who I am. And then you go out there to the real world, and there's so much that goes on that you actually filter yourself without, you filter yourself subconsciously. But just being so aware of dropping the filters and dropping your stuff and coming back to that feeling of joy and freedom and just being exactly who you are, no matter what that is.
Awesome. Well, I hope that through whoever's listening today, through both of us just getting to share, they see the example of the freedom that authenticity truly brings, and living in, just because you exude that. I love that you're just being you, and I thank you for being here and sharing that with me, and me getting to know you a little bit more, and everyone else getting to know you a little bit more, because you're a great example of just like, drop the story, drop the attachment, just show up, just be you, and it'll be perfect. So
And don't
again,
judge yourself when you catch
yeah.
yourself falling back into your shit as well. Just like, there's the no judging other people, but we judge ourselves so badly. So, you know, sometimes you're going to mess up. Sometimes, like you know, the bitch mum example, that's the perfect example, because then you think, oh God, but just don't judge yourself when you do take steps backwards.
Yeah, totally. Great feedback. So again, you guys, you can follow Jody on Facebook. You can go to jodyjelas.com. Definitely be able to reach out to her, follow her stuff, just even being inspired every day by her living in her truth, and hopefully assisting you guys to just grow and progress from these people around you. This is why, seriously, Jody, you're the epic example of why I bring people on the show, like why I put the money into creating the app and having this source for people to just learn and grow and get awesome feedback. Is it? I mean, look at this. You're in fucking New Zealand, and we get to connect and create and do this together and hear like all like your journey. And so, what I feel like I get to say right now is like, don't take this lightly, and that this has been her entire journey, her life's journey. She just shared the nuggets and the truth that allowed her to be in this place where she's totally in alignment, feeling good, living an awesome life, having the results of that in her life through business, relationships, etc. Like, she just shared with you all of this. So again, what she said, look at how to be yourself and how to just trust the process and know that you're in your perfect growth process. So thank you, Jody, for being here and sharing all that you did. You're epic, awesome, and amazing. So I'm stoked to get to connect with you a little bit more, because obviously, like, you're like a divine sister badassery that we gotta go now do some epic adventure shit together.
Awesome. I can't wait to come and hang out with you by your fire pit. That fire pit.
Oh, you saw that. Awesome. Yeah. And Chris Stubbs and I actually just launched a Badass Breakthrough Adventure Series experience. So we're doing our next one coming up is a New Year's Eve, like a 10-day where we just take all these badasses and go do crazy, adventurous, epic shit and break through at a higher level, all this stuff. So you should come hang out with us for that, because it's gonna be.
Oh my God, when is it?
It's going to be a New Year's Eve party, and then we're going to get like super clear and focused on the next year showing up, and me obviously kicking everybody's ass, because I do that too, like all the good stuff. So I'll tell you about it. I'll give you some info.
That's really cool.
So if you guys want to definitely go back and listen to this again and again and again, marcilockapp.com. You can also get that on iTunes, or go to mindbody90.com to get the video series and be able to break through all these lies that we've been talking about that are limiting you. Go to jodyjelas.com to be able to follow her and get her epic shit and awesomeness. And again, you know, fuck yes, Jody, I'm stoked. That was just freaking awesome. So you guys have an awesome, amazing, fantastical day. Create your awesome life. This is Marci Lock reminding you that the power of choice is yours. So choose your best life and lock it down.